My name is Dr. Thomas, and I have spent over 30 years practicing clinical urology. Today, I am going to reveal something the pharmaceutical industry would prefer you never found out. There is a simple food, one you can find at any grocery store or farmer's market, that has the power to completely transform your intimate life. I'm talking about stronger erections, deeper pleasure, and a level of vitality that will make you feel as though you've stepped back into your 20s. When was the last time an intimate moment gave you the same intensity you felt at 20 years old? Think about that honestly. And here's what I need you to understand right now. That decline is not your fault. Let me explain something I've learned across more than 3 decades of treating men of all ages. What you put on your plate directly determines how your body functions, including the firmness of your erections, the depth of your pleasure, and the power of your physical experience. I'm going to be completely direct with you, because you deserve that directness. Sensitivity decreases over time. Those moments of intimate pleasure that used to feel electric now feel muted, wrapped in cotton, as if something essential has gone missing that you can't quite name. The release becomes monotonous, even disappointing. I see this every single day in my practice, men in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who tell me exactly this. But here is what they need to hear. And what you need to hear right now, it does not have to be this way. And I am not talking about medication. I am not talking about prescriptions or pharmaceutical shortcuts. I am talking about real food. Food that nature designed specifically to support and restore male function. Food that in many cases works better than drugs I could prescribe, without the side effects, without the cost, and without the dependency. Stay with me through this entire video, because I am going to show you exactly which 5 foods carry this power. And I want to be absolutely clear, this is not speculation, not marketing, and not the kind of content designed to sell you something you don't need. Everything I am going to share is grounded in peer-reviewed scientific research, rigorous clinical studies, and over 30 years of first-hand experience treating men with these exact challenges. Let's begin with the first food on this list, and this one earns the title of king. Beetroot, that deep red root vegetable your grandmother used to slice into salads. Let me tell you precisely why beetroot is as powerful as it is. Because the mechanism matters here. Beetroot is loaded with natural nitrates. When you consume beetroot, your body converts those nitrates into nitric oxide. Pay close attention to this part, because this is where the real science lives. Nitric oxide relaxes and dilates your blood vessels, all of them, including the vessels directly responsible for erectile function. You may have heard of a famous little blue pill. That pill works by increasing nitric oxide in the body. Beetroot does the exact same thing, but naturally, without side effects, and without a prescription. It is, in every functional sense, a natural remedy available at your local market. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine followed 87 men between the ages of 55 and 72. The researchers found that men who consumed beetroot juice daily for 12 consecutive weeks experienced significant improvements in erectile quality, firmer erections, longer duration, and noticeably greater sensitivity. These were not marginal improvements. They were clinically meaningful changes produced by a vegetable. Now let me address something important here, because most men get this wrong. The correct dose is 200 to 250 milliliters of beetroot juice per day, roughly 1 small glass. You do not need to drink liters of it. Consuming excessive quantities of any food, no matter how beneficial, creates its own problems. So moderation applies here as it does everywhere. The goal is consistency, not volume. And there is a right time to consume it if you want maximum effect. The optimal window is approximately 2 hours before an intimate moment. Why 2 hours? Because that is how long your body requires to convert the nitrates in beetroot into active, functional nitric oxide. Think of it as programming your body to operate at peak capacity. You can drink it as pure juice, blend it with orange juice to improve the flavor, or eat it cooked in a salad. What matters most is regularity. I tell my patients consistently, make beetroot your best ally. Build it into your routine, and your body will respond. But beetroot offers more than just nitric oxide. It is rich in antioxidants that directly combat cellular aging throughout the body, including the cellular structures responsible for sexual function. The better you protect your cells from oxidative damage, the better every system in your body performs. This is not complicated biology. It is straightforward cause and effect. The second food is spinach. I know what you're thinking. It turns out Popeye understood something most men don't. Spinach is the testosterone-producing champion of the plant kingdom. It is extraordinarily rich in magnesium, and magnesium is one of the most essential minerals your body uses in the production of testosterone. Here is the clinical reality. After the age of 40, testosterone levels begin a natural, progressive decline. This is normal. It is part of the biological aging process. But what separates the men who feel the consequences severely from those who manage it well is, in large part, nutrition. A 2011 Italian study demonstrated that men who consumed higher amounts of magnesium had significantly elevated testosterone levels. And I want to emphasize this clearly. Testosterone is not only about sexual desire. It governs energy, mental clarity, muscle maintenance, emotional stability, and the fundamental sense of physical vitality that defines how a man experiences his own body day to day. Now, a legitimate concern worth addressing directly. Both beetroot and spinach contain oxalates. In excessive quantities, oxalates can place stress on the kidneys. If you have a history of kidney problems or kidney stones, consult your physician before substantially increasing your intake of either food. For the vast majority of men, consuming these in consistent, moderate amounts poses no meaningful risk. Common sense and professional consultation are your guides here, not fear. Spinach is remarkably versatile. Saute it lightly in olive oil, fold it into an omelette, blend it into a green smoothie, or toss it raw into a salad. I recommend consuming it at least 3 times per week. One practical tip worth noting, sauteing spinach in olive oil improves the bioavailability of its nutrients. The fat helps your body absorb fat-soluble compounds more efficiently. Small details like this are the difference between eating well and eating strategically. The third food, nuts and seeds. Walnuts, cashews, almonds, these are concentrated nutritional powerhouses for male intimate health, and I want to explain the mechanism precisely. Nuts are rich in zinc, and zinc is foundational to testosterone production and reproductive health. Without sufficient zinc, your body cannot produce testosterone at the levels required for optimal function. A study from the University of Michigan demonstrated that men with low zinc levels experienced noticeably weaker erections and diminished sexual desire. When those same men restored their zinc levels, the results were consistent. Erections strengthened, desire returned, and energy levels rose measurably. I frequently receive a practical question on this subject, and it deserves a direct answer. What about men who have dental limitations that make chewing difficult? The solution is simple. Natural peanut butter, cashew butter, or nuts ground in a blender and stirred into yogurt or a smoothie deliver identical nutritional benefit without requiring any chewing. The nutrient is what matters. The delivery method is entirely flexible. Nuts are also rich in arginine, an amino acid your body uses to produce. You already know the answer. Nitric oxide. Notice how these mechanisms converge. When you eat strategically, the foods reinforce and compound each other's effects. That is precisely why a balanced, intentional diet produces such profound results over time. My clinical recommendation, a small handful of mixed nuts or seeds every day. Morning is ideal, with breakfast, or as a mid-morning snack. Practical, effective, and genuinely enjoyable. The fourth food, dark chocolate. And when I say dark chocolate, I mean chocolate with a minimum of 70% cacao content, not milk chocolate. Not the sugar-heavy confections that dominate the grocery store candy aisle. Those are not what we are discussing. Dark chocolate at 70% cacao or higher is rich in flavonoids, compounds with a well-documented ability to improve circulation throughout the entire body. And the relationship between circulation and erectile function is direct and non-negotiable. Better circulation means more blood reaching the tissues that need it when they need it. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that the flavonoids in cacao reduce blood pressure and significantly improve blood vessel function. The practical outcome of that improvement is more efficient blood delivery to where it matters most, at the moment it matters most. But there is a second mechanism at work with dark chocolate that extends beyond the vascular. It stimulates the release of endorphins and serotonin in the brain, the neurochemicals of pleasure, well-being, and positive mood. This means the benefits are both physical and psychological. You are not just improving blood flow. You are improving the mental and emotional environment in which intimacy takes place. That context matters considerably more than most men acknowledge. One important clinical note: chocolate contains sugar, even in its darkest forms. If you are diabetic or pre-diabetic, quantity requires careful management. My recommendation is a maximum of 30 grams per day, approximately 3 to 4 small squares, and always choose the purest option available with minimal added sugar. If you have diabetes, consult your physician before increasing your consumption of beetroot, dark chocolate, or any food with significant sugar content. Beetroot juice in particular concentrates natural sugars. This is not a reason to avoid these foods. It is a reason to approach them with appropriate intelligence and medical oversight. The fifth and final food: watermelon. Yes, that refreshing summer fruit. The one you eat without a second thought at barbecues and beach days. Watermelon is extraordinary, and most men have absolutely no idea why. Watermelon is exceptionally rich in citrulline. Citrulline is an amino acid that your body converts to arginine, which in turn becomes nitric oxide. The biological chain is elegant in its simplicity. Italian researchers found that men who consumed watermelon extract experienced improvements in erectile function that were comparable to certain pharmaceutical interventions. To be precise, watermelon is not as pharmacologically potent as a prescription drug, but the effect is measurable, consistent, and clinically relevant. And watermelon is delicious, widely available, affordable, and entirely free of side effects. Here is one specific detail most men don't know. The highest concentration of citrulline in watermelon is not in the red flesh, it is in the white rind. That pale layer between the green outer skin and the red interior. When you eat watermelon, include some of that white portion rather than discarding it entirely. Most men throw away the most potent part without knowing it. Now let me show you how to integrate all of this into a practical daily framework. Because information without application is worthless, and I have no interest in giving you knowledge you can't use. Here is the routine I give my patients, and I can tell you from direct experience that it works consistently. In the morning, with breakfast, consume a small handful of mixed nuts or seeds. Combine them with yogurt, blend them into a smoothie, or eat them on their own. At lunch, include a serving of beetroot and spinach, either raw in a salad or cooked according to your preference. Rotate the preparation to maintain variety. In the late afternoon, enjoy a few squares of dark chocolate alongside your coffee. It is genuinely pleasurable and clinically effective, a rare and useful combination. And if you are planning an intimate evening, drink a glass of beetroot juice approximately 2 hours beforehand, or eat a generous portion of watermelon. The timing is intentional, and the mechanism is real. Now I want to be honest with you about something I have learned in 30 years of clinical practice. Dietary change does not produce miracles overnight. The body requires time to respond, to rebuild, and to restore what has been depleted over years. Most of my patients begin noticing the first meaningful changes within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent application. The significant, genuinely life-altering results typically emerge after 2 to 3 months of sustained effort. Consistency is not an optional feature of this protocol. It is the entire mechanism, and I need to be direct with you about what actively works against these foods. Excessive soft drinks, daily fried food, too much refined sugar, and heavy alcohol consumption all undermine the biological gains I've described. Your body is an extraordinarily complex and responsive machine. What you put into it determines what it can produce for you. Treat it with the discipline that reality demands. Let me share a real case from my practice. I'll call him Mr. Joseph to protect his privacy. Joseph came to see me at 68 years old. He sat down across from me, and before he said a single word, I could see the defeat in him. He told me, "Dr. Thomas, I think my intimate life is over. I feel nothing. Nothing works anymore." We spoke at length. I ran appropriate tests, and what I found was this: there was nothing seriously wrong with him. No structural pathology, no disease requiring aggressive intervention. What was wrong was years of nutritional neglect and compounded lifestyle habits that had quietly eroded his body's capacity to function as it was designed to. I put Joseph on the dietary protocol I've just described. 3 months later, he came back for a follow-up. The transformation in his face told me everything before he said a word. He was smiling, genuinely, deeply, in the way men smile when they feel like themselves again. He told me his energy had returned, that everything was working, that his wife had noticed the difference before he'd even mentioned it, and he had done all of this without a single drug. No prescriptions, no procedures, just informed, consistent nutrition applied with discipline over time. I want to be clear that medicine does not promise the same outcome in every case, and I would never suggest otherwise. Individual physiology is variable, and some conditions require clinical treatment beyond dietary intervention. But the majority of men who implement these changes with genuine consistency experience real, meaningful improvement. That is not anecdote or wishful thinking. That is what I have observed across thousands of patients over 3 decades of clinical practice. Now, a critical medical boundary I will not soften. These foods are preventive and supportive interventions. If you are dealing with severe erectile dysfunction, uncontrolled diabetes, or significant cardiovascular disease, you require proper medical supervision. Food is a powerful tool, but it does not replace clinical treatment when clinical treatment is necessary. These are not competing approaches, they are complementary ones. And one specific caution that I must raise clearly: if you take blood pressure medication that contains nitrates, as certain cardiovascular drugs do, consuming beetroot in large quantities can lower your blood pressure to dangerous levels. The combination of dietary nitrates and pharmaceutical nitrates requires medical oversight. Always discuss significant dietary changes with your physician when you are on prescription medication. This is not optional advice. Let me give you 4 additional levers that amplify everything I've described. First, hydration. Drink water, a minimum of 2 liters per day, more if you are physically active or in a warm environment. Dehydration reduces blood volume, and reduced blood volume directly impairs every circulatory process in your body, including erectile function. This is foundational and non-negotiable. Second, physical exercise. You do not need to become an athlete. A consistent 30-minute brisk walk every day produces measurable improvements in circulation, raises testosterone, reduces stress hormones, and improves mental health. Begin there. Build from there. Third, sleep quality. Your body produces the majority of its testosterone during sleep, specifically during the deepest sleep stages. If your sleep is fragmented, shallow, or insufficient in duration, your testosterone production is compromised regardless of what you eat during the day. Protect your sleep environment deliberately. Consistent bedtimes, reduced light exposure in the evening, phone away from the bed. These are not lifestyle luxuries, they are biological requirements for hormonal health. Fourth, stress management. Chronic, unmanaged stress is one of the most destructive forces acting against male health. Elevated cortisol, your primary stress hormone, directly suppresses testosterone production over time. Find your pressure release valve and protect it consistently. Whether that is fishing, meditation, physical exercise, or time spent with people who matter to you, make it non-negotiable. Your hormonal environment depends on it. On the subject of supplementation, I am frequently asked whether zinc or magnesium supplements are necessary. My honest answer is, it depends on your dietary baseline. If you are consuming the foods I've described with regularity, you likely do not need additional supplementation. If your diet is poor or restricted, supplementation may genuinely help close a meaningful gap. But I want to be absolutely firm about this. Do not self-medicate with supplements. Zinc in excess, for example, interferes with the absorption of other essential minerals. Magnesium in incorrect forms or dosages creates its own problems. If you want to supplement, consult a physician or registered nutritionist who can assess your individual needs and provide appropriate guidance. And I want to address directly the landscape of so-called miracle supplements you've almost certainly encountered online. Promises of dramatic size increases in 30 days, guaranteed erections lasting 48 hours. I will be plain with you. The vast majority of these products are fraudulent, entirely unsupported by meaningful science, and in some cases potentially harmful. There is no miracle. What exists is consistent, disciplined care applied intelligently over time. That is what produces results that last. 2 final behavioral factors that carry significant clinical weight: smoking and alcohol. If you smoke, stopping is the single most impactful decision you can make for your vascular health and, by direct extension, your sexual function. Smoking progressively destroys the endothelial lining of blood vessels throughout the body. Erectile function is entirely dependent on healthy, responsive blood vessels. No dietary intervention, no supplement, and no medical treatment can fully compensate for what chronic smoking does to vascular tissue. If this is relevant to you, address it. The investment is worth everything it costs. Regarding alcohol, an occasional drink is not a clinical concern for most men. Chronic, heavy alcohol consumption, however, is profoundly damaging to testosterone levels, liver function, and sexual health across every dimension. Moderation is not merely a recommendation here. It is a physiological necessity for any man who intends to maintain his health and vitality as he ages. Let me summarize what I've given you today, because clarity is what converts information into action. 5 foods. Beetroot for natural nitric oxide and improved blood flow to the tissues that matter. Spinach for magnesium and sustained testosterone support. Nuts and seeds for zinc, arginine, and the nitric oxide cascade they initiate. Dark chocolate for flavonoids, circulatory improvement, and neurochemical well-being. And watermelon for citrulline and the elegant biological chain it sets in motion. These 5, incorporated consistently into a balanced overall diet, have documented biological capacity to meaningfully improve erectile function, restore physical vitality, and elevate the quality of intimate life, even for men well past the age of 60. I have treated men in their 80s living fulfilling, active, intimate lives, not by accident and not by genetic luck alone, but because they made the decision to care for their bodies with discipline and intentionality. The difference between the man who feels 60 at 70 and the man who feels 80 at 60 is largely behavioral. It is the accumulation of daily choices, made consistently over years. The food you eat, the exercise you do, the sleep you protect, the stress you manage. Your body responds to what you do with it. That is not motivational language, that is physiology. Act accordingly. Make the changes. Give them the time they require. Be consistent without negotiation. And if you can, involve your partner in this process. Cook together. Explore new recipes. Make it a shared investment rather than a private struggle. Intimacy is not only about the physical act. It is about presence, about mutual care, and about the kind of connection that is built over time when 2 people invest in each other. If after 3 months of consistently applying this protocol you see no meaningful improvement, seek professional evaluation. There may be hormonal imbalances, circulatory pathology, or other underlying factors that require deeper investigation, but for the majority of men, these changes are sufficient to produce genuine and lasting transformation. More energy, more desire, more confidence, a more satisfying intimate life than you have experienced in decades. This is available to you. The tools are simple, affordable, and proven by science and by the experience of thousands of men who have sat across from me in that consultation room and made the decision to take their health seriously. Now that decision is yours. If this video gave you something valuable, share it with a man in your life who needs to hear it. And leave a comment below. Which of these 5 foods are you already eating? Which one are you going to start including in your routine? I read the comments, and I answer as many questions as I can. I'll see you in the next one.